Tonight, we have a woman that is totally confused by the fact that atheists exist.
I don't understand how people cannot believe in the Bible. I just don't understand. After he said that, I was like, I don't understand how people cannot believe in God.
She's got so many reasons as to why you should believe in God, and it utterly flabbergasts her that that atheists don't believe in a God. So we're going to find out what her questions are, why she thinks we should believe in God, and see if they're convincing. If you want to know why this woman is asking, why don't atheists believe in God, then please stay tuned. What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? All right, here we go. She has a question about why atheists don't believe in God. She's got a few questions. And so we're here to lend her a hand. She asked for some help and trying to understand. I think that she's being sincere, but we're gonna find out.
I was watching Walter Lee Hampton's video, and he was talking about the other day. He was telling his mother, I guess because his mother is staying with him. He was talking about how spiritual his mother was, and he's telling his mother that he didn't want to hear about the Bible and all this stuff because this is an atheist house. That's what he said. He was telling his mom that this is an atheist house. And I was like...
Well, I find it kind of weird to be like, this is an atheist house. I don't know. I feel like that phrasing is weird. Like, if it's his house, he has the right to be like, listen, I don't want to hear about the Bible this year. I mean, I'd rather not be exposed to that. Can we just not talk about it? I'm just saying, like, the whole concept of this is an atheist house just seems a little odd to me, but... anyways.
I don't understand how people cannot believe in the Bible. I just don't understand. After he said that, I was like, I don't understand how people cannot believe in God.
Okay, I can explain it to you. Most of us, I would say, have thoughtfully considered our position on whether or not we believe a God to exist, and we've come to the conclusion that we're not convinced whatsoever by the evidence that already exists, by the evidence, by the arguments, all the philosophical shit. We're just not convinced that he exists. So we live as though he doesn't, but we essentially don't believe he exists. So we're just simply not convinced by the evidence that we have, just to put it plain and simple for you.
I've heard lots of other people say that they don't believe in God. They don't believe in Jesus. He's talking about Jesus doesn't exist. And I'm like, okay, if he doesn't, then prove it. They can't. See, they'll say that, but they can't prove it.
Well, you see, here's the thing. The neutral position on this question of whether or not God exists is in the middle. It's between yes, he exists, no, he doesn't. So you start in the middle, and so you have to prove either way. Well, if you're making a claim, if you're making a claim, you have to prove either way whether he doesn't exist or he does exist. Now, to see, that's where the nuance comes in, is that atheists are not making the claim that God definitely doesn't exist. As far as like the ambiguous definition of a God, like the asshole God that just created everything and sat back and he's not doing anything, he doesn't have any kind of influence on this reality or on this world. He just let it go and he's just there, and there's no way that we could possibly prove that deity exists, at least right now. That's why we have to go to philosophical ways of figuring it out and shit. So if you're making a claim like you are doing right here, you have to prove one way or the other. I don't have to prove anything because I'm not making a claim. I'm just saying I don't believe in it. I'm essentially in the middle there. Like I don't know whether or not one exists, but I don't believe that one does exist. So you have to provide the evidence to prove that God exists, or at least beyond the shadow of a doubt that God exists. Not like 100% proof or anything like that. I'm just talking about more likely than not God does exist. That's what you have to establish. It's not up to me to disprove you. But I mean, if you provide an argument, I can tell you why that argument does not support your conclusion. That's what I can do.
I don't understand for the life of me why people don't believe in God. Because my thought was, how you think you're waking up every day?
Good question. I'm glad you left me enough room there to actually provide you with some information here. So basically, brain chemicals, neurotransmitters. There are some neurotransmitters that keep you alert and awake, and they help wake you up. And then there's other neurotransmitters that when they accumulate in your system, you become sleepy and tired. And so these neurotransmitters interact with your brain circuitry, and they cause this sort of sleep cycle. I believe it's called the circadian sleep cycle. There's a lot more stuff that goes into it, but that's basically it. That's the reason why you get tired during the day, is because your body has a buildup of these neurotransmitters and it causes you to get tired and sleepy. Coffee, it works to block the receptors for those neurotransmitters that cause you to get tired. And that's why they keep you awake. Coffee, or caffeine, sorry, not coffee, but caffeine. That's why it keeps you awake. It doesn't take God. It just takes a little bit of knowledge about brain chemistry to understand our sleep cycles. There's also this thing called the SNC. I'm not even going to try to pronounce, or SCN. Sorry, SCN. It's located in the hypothalamus, and it also helps control when we go to sleep, when we wake up, and everything like that. You understand that it's just basic neurochemistry and biology. Just a basic understanding of those things will actually allow you to explain how we can wake up without the need for a God. Let's not go into the whole fact that you just brought up, well, how do you wake up in the mornings without God? Has God never woke you up, honey? Because saying that God wakes you up kind of has a lot of ramifications to it, right? That I don't think that she is necessarily thinking about here.
What if God forgets you? Do you die?
Yeah, but that's one of the things. If you if you die in your sleep, then did God just forget to wake you up? Like, what happened there? If God controls when you wake up, those that sleep in, are they just, doing what God wants them to do? Or are they rebelling against God at that point? Like, they're saying, fuck off, God, you're not my alarm.
Snooze, bitch.
Snooze, bitch!
That's Satan coming out.
Yeah, that would be Satan. All right. Let's get back into this video, shall we?
How do you think you're waking up? You really think you're waking up on your own every day? I wonder when people don't believe in God, do they think that they're waking up on their own?
Yes. I don't know why you think that God wakes you up. That's a question that I have.
Do they thinking they thinking in their mind, I guess it's time for me to wake up today. I guess I'll wake up. Doesn't work like that.
Well, true. Okay, I have found myself sitting there dazing in and out of sleep and being like, fuck, I need to get up for work at 7:30 in the morning. Which, before the pandemic, I'd only sleep in until about 5:30 in the morning, right? And then I'd have to get up and I'd have to do everything for the channel, and then I'd have to wake up KC and get ready. We'd go to work and everything like that. So before the pandemic, I had to get up really early. But I don't understand why you think that it's not the natural processes that our bodies go through that wake us up. I guess she would also consider other natural processes in our bodies to be controlled and governed by God.
How do you poop without God?
But let's just consider the ramifications of God being the one that wakes us up and God being in control of bodily process. Because I could see the Christian argument of, well, God created those processes and they did all that. But what she's saying is that God actively makes a decision to wake us up in the mornings.
What about all the bad things?
Yeah. She gets into that too. If you think about it, if you think about all the other processes that our body has, just take how we heal. When wounds scab over and everything, does God control that process as well? Because if he does, and he makes that active decision for your body to heal itself or to scab over and grow new cells, instead of them being natural processes that just take place as part of what is the human body, then you're essentially saying that hemophiliacs have offended God, and God has said, fuck you, you're just gonna bleed and barely clot, if at all. You have to think of the ramifications of using God as the explanation. What would be the explanation for hemophiliacs? What about these other bloodborne diseases? What about sickle cell anemia?
Flatulence.
Blood poisoning. Flatulence. Is God...
Why would he create flatulence? That's just not fair.
True. I feel like she's saying that from a position of whenever I fart, because apparently that peels the paint. And she's like, why, God? Why?
You're not conscious. You're not conscious of anything. So if you're not conscious of anything, how can you wake yourself up? So there's only one person that can wake you up, and that's God. He's the only one that can wake you up, because you're not capable of waking yourself up. I said, does he think he doesn't say you believe in God? So that means that would you think you're waking yourself up every day?
Yeah, this is pretty ignorant. No, I mean, I think that biological... See, this is why I'm confused. Because the biological processes are not something that we actively think about. Like, I don't actively think about healing a scratch on my arm. I don't actively think about processing all of the different things that I put into my body when I eat and processing them into the nutrients that are contained with them and then going through the normal shit process. I don't actively think about those things. Those would actually be things that are controlled by a specific portion of your brain that you don't necessarily control. I'm very confused by your confusion over the fact that we don't claim to be able to wake ourselves up, but we claim that biological processes, neurochemical processes are the things that control those things, not God.
How do you think the sun got in the sky?
There are definitely natural explanations for how stars form. We've been able to look out into the night sky and see how stars are formed. Stars form from an accumulation of gas and dust, which collapses due to gravity and starts to form stars. The process of star formation takes around 1 million years from the time the initial gas cloud starts to collapse until the star is created and shines like the sun. Gas clouds collapse, like, we're not talking about, like I fart and that's a gas cloud, right? It's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about are these like huge, like astronomically huge gas clouds. They collapse and they form a star. How did the star form? Gas clouds from God's farts. Obviously.
Did the sun just magically appear one day? Don't give me that evolution of theory crap. I don't want to hear that.
Good, because I wouldn't say that evolution put it there.
That's what you believe.
Right. That is what Christians believe, that the sun popped into existence out of literally nothing.
On the fourth day.
On the fourth day, by the way, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. How can you have days before the sun was there? Obviously, God was closing his ass and opening it up and in perfect rhythm with the Earth's rotation. I find it hilarious how you criticize us for saying, oh, it just popped. It just formed there one day. Just the only difference between that and what you believe is that there is a magical wizard there to say a seance and create it. That's it. Just a wizard that's like, let there be light. And then it creates all the stars and everything like that. You literally believe somebody said an incantation and the entire universe formed, including the sun, the earth, the dog that was licking its asshole like in the yard today. Not our yard. We don't have a dog. There's some neighbors that collect dog shit though.
There's no such thing as that. The stuff is all this stuff that with the clouds, the sun, the moon, the stars. At nighttime, you go outside, you look in the sky, you see the stars. Who in the heck do you think put them stars there?
Did she go to elementary school?
I don't.
Because
probably.
they teach all of this to you in elementary school.
Yeah, they do. No, nobody put them there. They naturally formed there. There's a big difference. I feel like asking the question, who put the stars there? Who put the sun there? Who created that dick ass of a cat? That is a leading question. Like that's begging the question. Sorry, that's begging the question because you're already assuming your answer that somebody had to create it. What if nobody did? What if nobody was there to create it and it just happened by natural processes?
They just didn't magically appear one day. We got things that there's no man that it's not possible for men to create the sun or stars or anything like that. God had to put them there. That is the only way we got them. So that's why I don't understand why people say they don't believe in God.
Because we understand the processes that go into making stars, making the earth. We understand the processes that produce those things. We also understand that evolution is a real fucking thing. I wish I had my I forgot that this got brought up. I should have worn my evolution is a... By the way, evolution is a fact, because it is. You're just simply wrong that evolution isn't a thing when it really is. We have multiple lines of evidence to show that it is. Why is this the crux in you not understanding why atheists don't believe in God? We have explanations for these things. We don't need God to explain them. So where does God come into the equation other than you think we need God in order to explain these things?
How can you not believe in God? I mean, why do you think you even exist in the first place?
Okay, so one day my mom and my dad boned, and then stuff happened that I don't want to go into, and then I was born roughly 9 months later, on November 23rd. How did I come to be? Natural processes of the human body, just like sleep, just like healing myself, just like any other thing happens with our bodies and our existence. Natural fucking processes.
You use mom and dad as a vessel to bring you here. Mom and dad was the vessel to bring you here, but God is the one that puts you here. He's the one that brought you here.
Is God contained in the balls? Is that where it's like is God in the balls and God is in the vagina? I don't understand what she means by we are the vessels and but God put us here. If God put us here, then we wouldn't need to fuck in order to reproduce. Sexual reproduction in general wouldn't be a thing. People would just show up pregnant one day. Just wake up one day and it's like, oh shit, pregnant again. Guess God wants me to have another. I don't know what you mean by we are just the vessels for which God to shove his dick through the man's ass and then impale him through his dick in order to, I guess, get laid? Is that what happens? Like, how does this process happen here? We have an explanation for how fucking produces another person. We understand that. What I don't understand is why fucking is needed, but God is the one that creates us.
People say they don't believe in God, they don't believe in Jesus. And they say Jesus doesn't exist. Okay, prove he doesn't exist.
Well, again, we're not making the claim that he doesn't exist. Other than, I mean, I do have the mythicist position, but that's still a belief that I have. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about here, but also I feel like it's incumbent upon you saying that Jesus, whether that's a historical version of Jesus or a biblical version of Jesus, I feel like you need to be the one to provide evidence that shows that he exists. Now, I can substantiate the position that he probably didn't exist, and I do think it's incumbent upon me to prove that position if I'm making that claim. But if you're sitting there saying, why don't you believe in Jesus, you need to disprove that he existed. That's not exactly how that conversation would go. For one thing, and I want to make this clear, nobody should have a conversation with a general Christian, like I feel this woman is, about mythicism or along the topic of mythicism, like saying that Jesus didn't exist. The only thing that's really relevant as far as that discussion goes is whether or not the Jesus of the Bible is real, or whether or not Jesus is the Son of God, or he did all these magical things. I think that is a more pertinent thing. So if you're talking about the biblical Jesus, I agree, he definitely doesn't exist. There's multiple ways you can prove that, but I also feel like if you're saying that he does exist, you also shoulder a burden of proof in proving that he does exist. So just a little, I mean, you had the same problem before with the God question, so just reiterating it here.
They can't prove it. See, they can't prove it. So, I mean, or they're basing it on probably on something that they read that it's not substantiated.
Don't you fucking talk to me about not being substantiated. You have spent nearly 8 minutes making unsubstantiated claims about how God wakes our ass up and puts the sun in the sky and puts babies in us. You've made all these unsubstantiated claims, no evidence whatsoever to show that you're correct. You just say that these are the facts of reality with nothing underneath them to support them. Don't talk to me about being unsubstantiated.
When you look at all our different species of animals, you cannot convince me of anybody else that would have created all these different species of animals other than God. When you go to these different countries, you see all the beautiful waters and the beautiful sands and the trees. And
look at the trees! That's something that Braxton Hunter has really taken up as like a thing that he supports and he puts out there. Like he's like, it's actually a really good argument. Look at the trees! Man, I feel like I'm dying watching this. Again, you're begging the question by saying who created these things, not like what process or how did these things come into existence, or how were these things not created, but how did these things form? Like, how did things come to be this way? That would be the appropriate question here, not who created them. Fucking nobody. What do you want me to say? Goddamn scientists in a fucking lab somewhere squirted 2 bottles together and went, and then boom, an iguana appears out of nowhere. No. That's what your God does, except minus the chemicals and just add a little bit of this right here and then sheep. Of course, after that in the Garden of Eden, Adam tried to fuck all the animals. couldn't find that he could fuck them and reproduce, so God decided to take a rib out and create a woman. Totally reasonable!
The crazy thing is, our 5th grader can explain these things.
Yes, our 5th grader can explain these things, honey.
All these beautiful places. How do you think they got there? Jehovah God had to put it there. It just didn't magically appear.
So wait, she called him Jehovah God. I'm wondering if this person's a Jehovah's Witness. I mean, I feel like it would be incredibly odd for a Jehovah's Witness woman to be putting up a video.
Well, Fran Wilson in the chat said because she's a JW, she would be shunned for learning these things. Maybe she is a JW.
Yeah, somebody else is noticing it. Yeah, she's a JW. Yeah, when Jehovah God, like that right there clued me in. Jehovah's Witness. Obviously, none of this is going to get through to her.
All the different insects and some on which we hate. Different animals and stuff. I mean, come on. It had to be God. It had to be God. How can you not believe in God? And the sun. Who put it there? God had only one person that could have put it there, and that was God. And all the beautiful trees. And I just don't understand how people don't believe in God. It just baffles me when people say that. And you think you just living on your own, you living on your own accord, you waking up on your own accord, you breathing on your own, we're not doing anything on our own.
You see, this is why it's very confusing to me when we talk about how she thinks that God literally wakes us up. Trying to explain it with a more metaphorical, philosophical God wakes us up. God is not the one helping me breathe at this moment. This is a natural process that's going on. Unless you mean that God is the one that created our bodies and therefore is the reason why we can breathe or something like that. That's really an indirect way of getting there. I still am failing to understand any kind of way that God is helping me breathe or wake up in the morning or something like that. It's just more bullshit to pile on. Anyways, if you're going to be leaving out right now, I really appreciate you guys joining us tonight. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for making this year great. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.